Something I've noticed with a lot of people nowadays is that they literally hate on themselves, and I was always under the impression that you should be your own biggest cheerleader in life. You should be hoping that the person you are gets to enjoy the best life there is. Travel the world, meet amazing people, work an amazing job, but instead, people think that they deserve average. Maybe you believe you aren't destined to be successful. Maybe you think it's something in your genetics, like your height, your looks, or maybe even your ethnicity that have set you up to fail. But why? It's not your job to hate on you, but either way, we still think things like, I'm not good enough, or I wouldn't be good at that. So realistically, we end up being our own biggest haters. Now, I know I'm oversimplifying it a bit, but I say it like that on purpose, just so you can hear how silly it sounds. Even so, this type of mindset is still extremely common in our modern day, and today I want to talk a little bit about this mindset, why it happens, and how you can try to fix it. I want you to imagine that you're talking to one of your good friends. Picture anyone you like, but you're talking to them. It starts off as just a surface level conversation, but you sit down and you keep talking. Eventually, your friend ends up telling you about this big dream they've been thinking about pursuing lately. They tell you they've been passionate about it for a while now, but they're scared that it won't work out. They tell you a bunch of things that might go wrong, and they seem a little conflicted even. But then they say it's their absolute dream, and if they succeeded, it would definitely be worth it. Now, as their friend, what's your instinct? If your friend is actually being genuine with you, what do you say to that? Well, I know what I would say. I would tell them they should absolutely give it a shot. And this might differ from person to person. I mean, maybe you're a little bit more pragmatic and you might ask things like, what's your chance of success? What would you have to sacrifice to do it? But for the majority of us, if it's a friend we actually care about, we would support them without a second thought. Now, I want you to flip the perspective. Maybe some of you saw this coming, but imagine that the person you're talking to is you. Now, for some reason, it's different. You're imagining talking to yourself. But this person is so familiar, you know everything about them. Suddenly, even though that person might be better off following their dreams, you come to the conclusion that it's probably best to take the safer option and not to risk it. It feels like there's too much to lose. Maybe you think that having a dream is unrealistic in today's world anyways. So, what's actually the difference? Why would we be so ready to support someone we care about, but when it comes to supporting ourselves, there's this sudden resistance? It's because you understand your circumstances so well that you've built this barrier inside of your mindset, a barrier that you refuse to act outside of. This barrier represents your expectations for yourself, and it's built over your entire life. It dictates how you would and wouldn't act in certain situations, a personality even. It's made up of your limiting beliefs, your experiences, your core memories, and your identity. So when you're talking to your friend, there's only so much you know about them. You haven't lived in their mind for their entire life, so you have no idea what their barrier looks like. It's almost like watching a TV show, but you start on season 4. Based on what's happening, you may be able to make a rough estimate of what's going on and what might happen next. But it's only the people that watch from the beginning of season 1 that understand the deeper story, the character development, the motivations, the experiences of every character in that show up until that point. So that's what the difference is. That's why for your friends, you'll cheer them on, because without being trapped by their barrier, you know that the best thing for them would be to take on that risk and follow their dreams. And that brings us to the obvious conclusion. It's as a result of our own barrier and our own limiting beliefs that we choose to be realistic. Because for ourselves, there are real risks and real effort to be put in. So what even is the solution? Why do some people have a more favorable barrier? Why do some people have such a strong self-belief? Well, to know the answer to that, we have to better understand why our barrier is the way it is. What influences created this barrier that makes us doubt ourselves? The first major influence I want to talk about is our perception of failure. Failure is something that everyone has experienced, and as we develop, we start to create our own unique perceptions of it. Failure can be as simple as pushing a pool door, or it can be when you do too many push-ups. It can be failing a test or even getting rejected by a girl. By nature, failure is a negative thing. It means that you've failed to succeed, and that's not a good feeling. Over time, we collect failures. Sometimes it comes in the form of a slight unease, maybe a feeling of deep embarrassment, maybe anger. Again, failure is a negative thing, so naturally, people learn to avoid it, sometimes at all costs, and it's not even your fault. As we grow older, we reinforce this belief that failure is a bad thing, which it is, but this belief forms in a different way for everyone. When we experience failure, our minds are designed to determine what went wrong in order to perform better the next time. That's why humans are known as the most adaptable creatures on Earth, but it also works against you. You got rejected by that girl, so you must not be good looking enough. You failed that test, so you must not be smart enough. You lost that race, so you must not be fast enough. Slowly but surely we build a bad relationship with failure. And in the future, this feeling of incompetence follows us around whenever we try to succeed. This is a key part of your barrier. Those reasons for your failures follow you. You're too short, you aren't good looking, you're dumb, you're weak, you're a nerd, or you're a loner. Whatever it may be, we start to believe it. Maybe other people even hated on you for your failures, but you started to hate on you as well. And here is where we come to a major point, which is the fear of failure, however strong it may be, creates this defense mechanism inside of your mind. You start to accommodate the mindset of low risk, safe reward. Things that are risky have an unsafe reward, but things that are low risk have a safe reward. We keep the same friends because they're familiar. We stay in the same location because it's safe. We get a full-time job because it's a stable income. And we go to university to safely increase our chances of getting into the job market. We try to keep things from changing because change is risky. We only do things that people we know have done because it reduces our chances of failure the most. So when thoughts of being self-employed, moving cities, changing friend groups, or doing anything different comes to mind, we instinctually get this feeling of anxiety or resistance. This is where our experiences of failure come back to haunt us. Even if these decisions are objectively the best thing for you to do, our mind reminds us of how painful failure can be. We tell ourselves things like we aren't smart enough to do that, we aren't strong enough, we are too much of an introvert to do that, we're just lazy. And this is where self-doubt is born, the inbuilt defense mechanism from the fear of failure, the fear of being judged for failing, and the fear of that negative feeling that comes with failure. We hate on ourselves because it's easier to accept that we were meant to fail than it is to believe that we were meant to succeed and then end up failing anyways. It's a mindset that plagues us all, some far more than others. Now, I have this friend I go to the gym with, and before I got him into the gym, he used to just go home, consume content, and pretty much just live his life on repeat. It's been about 9 months since he started, so I'm pretty proud of him, and he's been going consistently. But sometimes I have these conversations with him. I'll ask him what his plans are, what he'll do once he moves out, and what his dreams are. And he told me that he doesn't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I just haven't really thought about it. So what's gonna happen when your parents kick you out one day? I guess I'll just be homeless. You don't actually want to be homeless, do you? And sometimes he'll tell me about these videos he watches, about how if you're under 5'7", then you're pretty much cooked. I told him I don't believe that. And he went on to tell me that there are so many problems with being short. He has trouble getting girls, his physique doesn't look as aesthetic, and he instantly loses respect from people. As the good friend I am, I try to tell him otherwise, but he was persistent. And it's here that I realized that this barrier is stronger for some than it is for others. And I'm not trying to be mean to my friend when I say that. I mean, he definitely has his redeeming qualities, but this brought me to a very insightful realization. And that is that the stronger your self-doubt is, the less willing you are to take risk. But for the progression of your life towards your dreams, that's a fundamental flaw. The law of compensation states that you get equal reward to the amount of effort you put in. Similar to the concept of high risk, high reward. If you continue to take low risks in your life, you are bound to continue getting low rewards. Even though a lot of us know this, we continue to take the safest option. Why? Well, it's a simple answer. We often encounter failure more than success when we do something. It depends what you're doing, but for the most part, you usually fail more than you succeed when trying something. So we end up not trying in the first place, so that we don't waste our time. but I'm sure we've all been on social media. Actually, I'm pretty certain about that. And that means that you're aware of the possibility that you can be successful, you could be rich, and you could have freedom, because we see these people online that are living the life that we want to live. And you'll come to find that only a small minority ever get to this level before the age of retirement. And if you continue to not waste your time on things, you'll end up with no time left to waste. So you need to take these large risks while you have the time. And taking large risks means that you have to be different to others. And that's an entirely different problem to solve. Even if you had the courage and the willpower to go through with it, there would be obvious backlash. Maybe it's by your immediate friends, maybe your family, maybe the place you currently work, possibly your entire community. And here's where I want to share a story of my own. Back when I was in high school, I was what people call naturally gifted. I would get good grades with minimal study, I loved maths, and I was incredibly good at writing essays. My parents always pushed me in my academics. I heard they wanted me to be an accountant or a lawyer or something of the sort. Those were important jobs, and I believed that I was smart enough to do them. I enjoyed school and I was getting praised for my good work. School was always my thing. But as I got to my senior year, I started to really hate the schooling system. What I used to enjoy started to become a competition. People had to study more and more to get better grades, and they were rewarded for having less of a social life. The more that you studied, the better your grades would be. And for the people that were at the top of the ranks, I could see that they had basically no social life. They put everything into their studies, and it was just kind of sad. I couldn't see myself being someone like that. I mean, I hold my value in who I am as a person, like my confidence, my fitness, and all these other aspects, not just by numbers on a page. I didn't want to pretend that I wanted to do this for another 4 years in university, so I started to think about what it was that I actually wanted to do with my life. I've always wanted to travel, and I've always been keen on starting some sort of online business. I ended up taking a gap year after I had finished my senior year, and I started working part-time as a cook in an Italian restaurant. I liked this decision because it gave me real-world experience and flexibility to do what I really want. But I had done something different. My parents were surprised. My friends went to university without me. Everyone asked me why I wasn't studying, and I felt like I was letting everyone down. And maybe I was. I probably could have been an incredible accountant or an amazing lawyer. I hear it all the time that I'm wasting my potential. Maybe I am wasting my potential, you know? I could have gotten a pretty good job, gotten a few promotions, maybe a really good salary. But I asked myself a real question. Is it right to take the safe option even if everyone is telling me to, or should I take a risk to be different? Now, imagine yourself 70 years from now. You're retired, you worked a good portion of your life, and now it's finally time. You're on your deathbed and you're surrounded by some of your family, and you're lying there in the hospital bed, now knowing you have no more time left to do anything. So you just sit there and you remember what you've done in your life. Slowly but surely, you start to feel some regrets. Maybe you wish that you were an artist, a writer. You never did actually go on that holiday to Italy. You realized that you were too busy living your life for other people. And worst of all, every time you wanted to try something new or take a risk, you had too much self-doubt to ever try. You lived a life of low risk because you never challenged that barrier. Don't you want to die having no regrets? Well, it starts with believing that you can be more than just average. And whatever reason that you've come up with for why it can't be you, just get rid of it, please. Your height, your looks, your athleticism, your intelligence, your current situation. Just take a look at some of these rich guys, and I'm sure you can find one of them that has the exact same thing wrong with them. Your dreams, they're possible, whatever they may be. And you only get one life. You only get to be one person. So you should be that one person's biggest fan and biggest supporter. Don't get trapped in the safety of familiarity, as you just end up living your life for others. No matter how much you try, self-doubt won't disappear. Unfortunately, as much as I would love to tell you there's a secret sauce for that, there isn't. But what you can do is you can shift your mindset and focus on cultivating self-belief. The more risks you take to improve your life, the closer you get to success. The closer you get to success, the more you'll believe in yourself, and the more self-belief you have, the more you diminish your own self-doubt. Hopefully, you can start that journey to pushing that barrier, because the only way to create self-belief to combat your self-doubt is to work really hard to give yourself proof that you are someone worth believing in. Take that first step, because if you keep waiting for a perfect time, you'll end up with no time at all. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, subscribe, and I hope I helped you think a little different. See ya.